Now, let me get your reaction to the latest developments. We're hearing from the acting FBI director at this hearing that is underway that there was no discrepancy or loss of confidence with rank-and-file FBI members to now former Director Comey. What do you make of that discrepancy from the White House to what we just heard from the acting director?
Well, I'm not surprised, but I think this issue is fundamentally about whether or not the decision itself to fire the FBI director was either appropriate or not appropriate. I would argue it wasn't appropriate, and that's the simple reason for that is once Director Comey said on March the 20th that he was conducting an investigation which would have ties to the administration, the alleged connection between the campaign and the Russians and other ties, once he made that decision, I think the White House had forfeited their opportunity to fire him. Why didn't they do it in transition? Why didn't they do it between January 20th and March 20th if they were so concerned about the way he was conducting the work of the FBI? So I think that's the fundamental question.
You said in a statement to the Allentown Morning Call that the firing was quote-unquote Nixonian. Now, Republicans as well as the White House have argued that Democrats had argued at one point that Director Comey should be fired. What's your response to that?
Well, you could have, in other words, you could agree with some of the arguments against Director Comey for what happened in 2016. I had a lot of concerns about what happened then. In fact, the Deputy Attorney General had a memorandum which outlined a lot of those concerns, but that was all past tense. They knew that in transition, they knew that in the early days of the administration, and if you rest your decision upon that assertion, that alleged that assertion of your disagreement with the way he was conducting business, then they should have made a decision to fire him long before. But once March 20th came and he announced to the world he was investigating ties to the administration, you can't fire the person who's investigating your team or your work. So that's I think that's pretty fundamental.
When you take a step back at this, you've called for a special prosecutor. Democrats have called for a special prosecutor. We now learned that the acting director is saying there was no loss of confidence in Director Comey from the rank and file, directly contradicting the White House. We also heard from him saying that the firing did not impact the ongoing investigation. But I guess the broader question now becomes, do you have confidence in the acting director that Mr. McCabe will be able to sufficiently investigate whether or not there was any collusion in the 2016 election?
I don't know yet because I don't know enough about him or his work, so we'll be examining that. But what I'm certain of is the country, I think, expects now that the administration, and this doesn't require any bill passing, the administration right now should insist that the deputy director begin the process of appointing a special counsel.
And just quickly about health care, you've had concerns about how this is being negotiated. What do you make of how Republicans are negotiating health care?
Well, first of all, the House bill is a disaster for people with disabilities, children, and seniors. So we should reject it. But how our Senate Republicans should do is have an open process. Let's debate it. But so far they've indicated they're going to do it behind closed doors. That's not a good recipe for good legislation.